Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I never thought living alone would be terrifying. I always imagined it would be peaceful. Quiet nights, my own space, no interruptions. But that night, everything went wrong. It started around midnight. I was curled up on the couch with a mug of tea, scrolling through my phone, when I heard a faint scratching at the front door. At first, I thought it was the wind, tossing leaves against the glass, but the sound continued, soft and deliberate. Scritch, scritch, scritch. I froze. My apartment was on the second floor. No one could reach the door easily. I put the phone down and leaned toward the peephole. Nothing. Just the shadows of the parking lot under the dim streetlights. Then came the knock. Harder this time. Bang, bang, bang. I jumped. My pulse spiked. Who would be out here at this hour, and why would they be knocking so aggressively? I tried the door. Locked, deadbolt secure. I double-checked the chain lock. Everything was in place, but the knocking didn't stop. In fact, it changed. A slow, rhythmic pattern. Knock, pause, knock, pause, almost like someone was counting. I grabbed a kitchen knife. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. I edged to the living room window, peeking through the blinds. The parking lot was empty. No car, no people, nothing. I exhaled, trying to calm down. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe a drunk neighbor messing around. I told myself it was nothing. Then I heard the whisper. Hey. It came from outside the front door. Low, soft, almost playful, but unmistakably real. Someone, or something, was there. My blood ran cold. I backed away, heart pounding. My mind raced. I tried calling my friend, my phone, dead, no signal. I tried the landline, silent. And then I noticed the footprints, wet, muddy prints leading up the stairs to my apartment door. I hadn't seen them before. I hadn't heard anyone climbing the stairs. But there they were, fresh, leading to the door. I wanted to run, but the staircase was visible through the front window. No one, nothing. I tried convincing myself it was the storm, some trick of the shadows. But the scratching started again, this time inside. I spun around, my apartment, empty, no windows open, no doors unlocked. And yet, something was moving inside. The scratches moved closer, circling the living room. I could hear it on the hardwood floor, careful, deliberate, every step measured. My eyes darted around, trying to find the source. I saw nothing. Then the voice again, clearer this time. Don't hide from me. I backed into the kitchen. My knife felt heavy in my hands. My mind screamed to escape, but the storm was outside. The balcony would be slick with rain, the fire escape dangerous, and I knew, whatever this was, it wouldn't let me leave. The lights flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed the apartment, only the faint glow from the streetlights filtered through the blinds. I froze. Then came the sound of breathing, slow, heavy, right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. My apartment was empty, and yet the presence was real. I could feel it, cold, pressing against me. I bolted toward the bedroom, slammed the door, locked it, crouched by the bed, bat in hand, trying to slow my breathing. Then the whisper, right next to my ear. I'm inside. My heart stopped. Inside. Not outside. I scrambled to the window, balcony. Maybe I could climb down, escape. The rain had lessened, but the metal railing was slick. I stepped out cautiously. Nothing, just wet metal and the empty parking lot. Then I heard it. Footsteps on the balcony behind me. Heavy, not fast, deliberate, step by step. I turned. Nothing, just the empty railing. I took a deep breath, tried to calm down, and started climbing down. Midway, I slipped. My hand hit the railing, cold, hard. Pain shot up my arm. I managed to catch myself, and that's when I saw it. A figure on the balcony above me, wet, shadowed, watching, but not a person. Its shape was humanoid vaguely, but wrong, twisted, too tall, arms too long, and it had my face, not a mask, my exact face, twisted in a grin I couldn't make. I screamed, scrambled down the last steps, and ran to the street. Cars passed, oblivious. I didn't care. I didn't look back. I reached my friend's place a few blocks away. They believed me at first, until they saw my hands. Scratched, bleeding, mud under my nails like I'd been fighting in the rain. I returned the next day to check my apartment. Door locked, lights off. Everything seemed normal. But the balcony, the railing had scratches, wet scratches, and there on the floor, a footprint, big, too big, with toes spread oddly, long, unnatural. I backed away, heart hammering. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a message. "Thanks for letting me inside." I dropped the phone. Nothing else. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. I've never gone back. I live somewhere else now, somewhere crowded. I lock every door, every window. I sleep with lights on. But sometimes, when the wind howls at night, I swear I hear the scratches. Slow, methodical, counting, and I know, one day it will come back. I've always loved quiet nights. My apartment was small, nothing fancy, but the silence was intoxicating after years of city chaos. That night, however, the silence turned into something wrong. It began around 11. I was sitting at the kitchen table, headphones in, scrolling aimlessly through old photos on my phone. Rain had started earlier, hammering against the window, streaking the glass in long, jagged lines. It was relaxing until the knock came. Soft, gentle, tentative, tap, tap, tap. I froze. The sound came from the window by the sink. My first instinct was to ignore it, tell myself it was the wind or a stray branch. But the taps came again, more insistent this time. I pulled the headphones out. "Hello?" I called softly. My voice cracked. No answer, just the rain. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. I leaned closer to the window. The glass was fogged with condensation, and beyond it, the world was a blurred mess of water and streetlights. Nothing visible, nothing that shouldn't be, and yet, I felt eyes on me. I wasn't imagining it. I grabbed my phone to call my neighbor, maybe even the police. No signal. Dead. Of course, I thought about the security system. I hadn't set it up yet. But the thought of leaving the lights off and wandering outside in this weather made my stomach knot. Then the knock came again, louder, from the front door. I froze. I live on the second floor. Nobody should be able to reach the door easily, especially in this storm. My hands shook as I pressed myself against the wall, eyes darting to the peephole. Nothing. I tried to convince myself it was some delivery gone wrong. Maybe someone had left a package and had tried to knock, but the storm had driven them off. But as I stared, I noticed something strange. A wet footprint just outside the door. Not muddy, not snowy. Wet, as if someone had been standing there, soaked and hadn't moved away. My heart raced. I grabbed the nearest object I could find, a kitchen knife, and edged to the door. Locked, deadbolt secure, but the knocking didn't stop. Now it was rhythmic, methodical. Tap, tap, tap. I stepped back, and that's when I heard the whisper. "Open up." I spun. My apartment was empty. I live alone. I stumbled toward the living room, backing into the corner. Then I saw it. Movement outside the sliding glass door to the balcony. A shadow. A figure just at the edge of visibility, soaked by the rain. I couldn't make out a face, only a dark outline, hunched and still, watching, waiting. I wanted to scream, but my throat was dry. My hands trembled. I thought about escaping, running down the fire escape, calling for help. But the figure moved. Not fast, not like a person would, but it shifted its stance as if it knew I was planning something. Then my apartment lights flickered and went out. Total darkness. The storm outside seemed to intensify, rain pounding harder, wind howling. I could barely see my own hands in front of my face. A sound behind me, heavy, slow, scraping against the wooden floor. Footsteps, not fast but deliberate, each step measured, patient, heading my way. I swung around, knife raised, nothing. The scraping moved again toward the hallway. I backed into the bedroom, slamming the door. Lock engaged. My pulse was deafening, my breath sharp, shallow. Then it spoke. Not a whisper this time. Clear, familiar. You shouldn't hide from me. The voice wasn't just familiar. It was mine. My exact tone, my exact inflection. I stumbled back against the wall. My knife trembled in my hands. Who's there? I demanded. Silence. Then came another sound. The front door. Slowly. The lock clicked. Step by step, the door creaked open. Nothing moved beyond it. The hallway was dark, empty. But I could feel it. Presence, watching, waiting. I needed to escape. I had to get out. I edged toward the balcony door. Outside, the storm had started to calm, rain slanting sideways instead of straight down. I could make it to the fire escape. I opened the door. Cold rain slammed into me. My heart jumped. I took a step onto the small landing. Footsteps behind me. Heavy. Close. I turned. Nothing. Empty hallway. But when I looked back over my shoulder, something moved on the balcony behind me. A figure. My figure. Standing there. My shape. My face. Smiling. Only wrong. Hollowed eyes, mouth too wide. I screamed, slipped, and grabbed the railing. My foot hit the fire escape ladder, and I started climbing down, heart hammering, trying not to look back. Halfway down, I felt it. Cold. Hands on my shoulders, not human, not solid, but heavy. I stumbled, fell, and hit the ground with a jolt. Pain radiated through my arm, my ribs. The figure was gone. I scrambled up, ran to the street, and kept going. By the time I reached the main road, drenched and trembling, the city lights were in the distance. People passed by, oblivious. I wanted to tell someone, call the police, explain, but I didn't. I couldn't. I didn't know how to describe it. How could anyone believe me? I went home the next day with a friend, lights on, doors locked. Nothing seemed out of place. The apartment was empty, no footprints, no wet patches, everything normal. Until I went to the kitchen. A wet handprint on the inside of the window. I backed away, heart in my throat. The imprint was large, fingers long, unnatural. It wasn't mine. And there, faint in the reflection, I saw a movement behind me. I spun. The apartment was empty. I was alone. And yet, I felt it. Someone, or something, was still outside, waiting. Because the handprint hadn't come from the outside. It had been pressed from the inside. I had always prided myself on being careful. Locks checked, windows latched, alarms set. I live alone, and after a few bad experiences in the city, I was meticulous about security. That night, I thought I was just being paranoid, but hindsight has a way of proving you wrong. It started around 10. I was sitting on the couch, laptop balanced on my knees, trying to finish a last-minute freelance project. The rain was falling hard outside, tapping the roof, sliding down the windows in rivulets. Cozy, if not for the occasional clap of thunder that made the apartment shudder. I heard it first as a soft knock on the window. I froze, staring at the glass. My apartment is on the 4th floor. Nobody could just knock like that. I ignored it, assuming the storm had loosened something. Then it came again, faster, knocking, this time with rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. I set the laptop aside. "Hello?" I called, trying to make my voice steady. No response, only the storm. I tried to convince myself it was a loose branch, maybe even a piece of trash hitting the glass. But the taps persisted. They moved, from the front window to the side. And that's when I heard the whisper. "Hey!" I spun around. My apartment was empty. I live alone. I grabbed my phone. Dead. Not even a little signal. I turned on the flashlight app. The beam shook as I edged toward the windows. Rain streaked everything. Shadows twisted in the flickering light. Then I saw movement outside. Just a figure, standing under the awning of the building across the street. Tall, hunched, featureless in the darkness. I exhaled slowly. "Probably just someone out in the storm," I whispered. "Nothing you need to worry about." But the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. I locked every door again, triple-checked, and moved back to the couch. My laptop was still open. I tried to focus on my work, but I couldn't. My eyes kept darting to the windows. That figure was still there, watching, waiting. I thought about calling the police, but no signal, no service. I tried the landline. Dead, not even a dial tone. The tapping started again, this time from inside. My heart stopped. I bolted upright, scanning the apartment. The sound came from the hallway. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Click, 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 approaching the bedroom. My bedroom. I grabbed a kitchen knife from the drawer, shaking, my palms slick with sweat. "Who's there?" I yelled, voice cracking. No answer, just the footsteps. Closer. I backed into the corner. The lights flickered. My TV switched off, then on again, static filling the screen. And in the static, I saw it. Just for a second, a face pressed against the glass of the window in the living room. My face, but wrong, twisted, smiling in a way I couldn't smile. I dropped the knife. My breath came in gasps. I didn't want to look, but I had to. The face disappeared. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I told myself it was my imagination. I tried to convince myself of that. But then my laptop screen flickered. An image appeared. My apartment, empty. But from the corner of the camera angle, I could see the figure moving, watching, mimicking me. I didn't know how it was possible. I have no cameras. How was it showing me this? The lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. I fumbled for my phone. Dead. Nothing. My breathing was loud, echoing in the silent apartment. Then I heard the whisper again. "Come outside." I froze. My legs refused to move. Another whisper, closer. "Come outside. I won't hurt you." A sound, soft but insistent, like someone dragging something heavy, came from the door. Not knocking, not breaking in. Dragging. Closer. Closer. I ran to the bedroom door, slammed it, locked it. The dragging stopped. Silence. My ears rang. Then, a whisper right under my ear. "I'm already inside." I spun. Nothing. My room was empty. But the door handle rattled. Someone, or something, was outside my door, trying the knob. I bolted to the closet, shutting the door behind me, crouching low. And then, the smell hit me. Metallic, irony, blood. I realized something was seriously wrong. Something was in the apartment, somewhere I couldn't see, and it wasn't human. I could hear it moving, soft, careful, deliberate, listening, watching, waiting. I thought of escaping through the balcony, sliding glass doors. I risked a glance. Outside, the storm had calmed slightly. The street below was empty, but I saw footprints, dozens of them circling the building, leading nowhere, coming from nowhere. I made my decision. I had to get out. I inched toward the door, knife in hand, and slipped into the hallway. The apartment felt alive. The walls creaked as if breathing. Shadows moved against the corners, always just out of focus. I reached the front door, fumbled with my keys. As soon as I touched the handle, I felt it, a pressure behind me, heavy, cold. I turned, nothing, just darkness. Then a whisper, "You can't leave." I bolted outside. Rain slicked the pavement, wind tearing at my coat. I didn't look back. I ran down the street screaming, hoping someone, anyone, would see me. But the streets were empty, silent. I reached my car, keys, door locked, engine turned over. I drove as fast as I could, heart hammering. And then I saw it in the rearview mirror. A figure standing at the curb, watching. Tall, featureless, but unmistakable. Its head tilted, mimicking me, mocking me. I screamed, swerving. The figure vanished. Only the empty road. I told myself it was over. I told myself I was safe. When I got home the next day, lights off, doors locked, I checked the windows. Everything seemed normal. My apartment, my belongings, nothing moved. Nothing seemed out of place. I tried to forget. I told myself it was stress, storm-induced hallucinations. But then I noticed something small. A footprint inside the apartment, wet, muddy, human-sized, leading from the front door to my bedroom. And then the whisper from the closet. Next time, don't leave the door unlocked. I never stayed in that apartment alone again, but sometimes, when the wind howls at night, I swear I hear it, scratching, and I know, one day it will come back. I thought I'd left all the chaos of my life behind when I moved out to this tiny cabin at the edge of the woods. Isolation had been the plan. No noisy neighbors, no city lights, no one staring at me through their windows. Just me, the trees, and the small creek that ran behind the cabin. It sounded perfect. Until tonight. It was late, well past midnight, and I was sitting at the kitchen table trying to finish a report for work. The storm had started earlier in the evening, rain hammering against the roof, wind shaking the trees violently. I liked storms in theory. Alone with a book, a cup of tea, I could always make storms cozy. Tonight, though, the storm sounded angry. At first, it was subtle, a scratching, almost soft against the outside walls. My first thought was the wind dragging some loose branch along the siding. I tried to ignore it, focusing on my laptop screen. But then it came again, louder this time. Scratching. Not along the walls, but the front door. Slow, deliberate. I froze. The cabin's front door was heavy, steel-reinforced, and dead-bolted. I'd checked it twice before settling in for the night. Still, the sound persisted. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I told myself it was nothing. Animals, the storm, my imagination. But my stomach tightened as the sound shifted. From the door to the windows, all the windows. The rhythm was too intentional. Someone was moving around, inspecting the perimeter. I grabbed a flashlight and edged to the window, pulling the curtain slightly aside. Nothing. Just sheets of rain blowing sideways. I exhaled, shakily. "Just the storm," I muttered, but my voice sounded hollow. I could feel my heart hammering. Then I heard it. A low voice, barely audible over the storm. "Hey." I spun around. The cabin was empty. I live alone. The voice came again, this time from outside the window nearest my desk. "Hey, can you hear me?" I stumbled backward, almost tripping over the chair. Panic set in. I tried calling 911. My phone was dead. No signal. My laptop had no Wi-Fi. The storm must have knocked it out. I ran to the back door, grabbed the bat I kept behind it, and pressed myself against the wall. The voice called again, lower now, almost impatient. "I know you're in there. Open up." I felt bile rise in my throat. There was no way this person could be outside. The cabin sat on stilts at the edge of the creek. The ground was muddy, slippery, and the storm had turned the path into a river of water. No one could have walked up here without leaving traces. And yet, the voice knew I was in there. I peeked out the window again. Nothing, just shadows flickering in the stormlight from the occasional lightning strike. I thought about escaping, maybe running through the woods to the nearest road, but stepping outside felt impossible. The storm was blinding, the mud sucking at my boots. And then I remembered the small generator in the shed. Maybe I could power the cabin's small security camera system. I just needed a few minutes. As I reached for the door, a shadow moved behind me. I whipped around. Nothing. Only the dim kitchen light reflected off the rain-streaked windows. I froze, listening. Then I heard it, scratching. From inside. My blood ran cold. Inside the cabin, I live alone. I backed away from the door, my bat shaking in my hands. The scratching continued, soft, careful, circling the room, from the ceiling, the walls, the floor. Like someone was walking on the rafters, and then a whisper right next to my ear. You shouldn't hide. I spun. Nothing. My heart was hammering in my ears. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. I could feel it, though. Presence. Close. Watching. Waiting. I ran to the bedroom, slammed the door, and locked it. The storm outside rattled the windows, but inside the cabin, something else was moving. Something heavier than a person, but softer than wood. Deliberate. Calculated. I crouched by the bed, bat raised, trying to slow my breathing. Then it spoke again, this time not whispering, but clear, deliberate. Why are you hiding from me? I swallowed, trying to think. A burglar? Impossible. No way could anyone be moving like this in the storm, in a cabin like this, and stay completely silent until now. And yet, I could feel it, pacing outside the bedroom door. I needed a plan. I needed a weapon. But the bat wasn't enough if this thing had already found a way inside. Then I heard something that made my stomach drop. The front door clicked. Not the storm, not the wind. The lock turned, slowly. I ran to the window in the bedroom, peering into the darkness. Rain poured down, drenching the porch. No footprints, no one. But then I saw it. A hand, pressed against the glass, pale, wet, wrongly shaped with long, unnaturally thin fingers. I stumbled back, heart in my throat. The hand pressed again, then a head appeared, not fully visible. But the eyes, blacker than night, reflecting nothing, empty and smiling. I backed against the wall, panic overtaking me. I didn't think. I grabbed my phone, somehow managing to find a weak signal, and called my neighbor down the road. I explained, my voice trembling, the storm roaring in the background. I think someone's inside my cabin. There was a pause. Then the neighbor said slowly, "You're joking, right?" "I'm not joking. Please, come now." The line went dead. I tried again. No signal. My phone was dead, and I was alone. Completely. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. From the kitchen to the living room. And it stopped, right outside the bedroom door. "You can't run," it said. I gripped the bat tighter, heart hammering. Then, faintly, I heard my own voice, my exact tone, coming from the hallway. "Who's there?" I turned slowly toward the door. My blood ran cold. A figure emerged, not fully, just a silhouette, but it had my shape, my hair, my face, and it smiled. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The shadow stepped closer, tilting its head, studying me. Then it spoke, in my voice, exactly my words with the same inflections. "I'm you." But better. I screamed and swung the bat. It passed right through the figure, like it wasn't solid. The figure didn't even flinch. It stopped, and in the dim light from the storm, it gestured toward the window. Outside or inside, you'll have to choose. I stumbled backward, tripping over the bed. The figure reached out and the room went cold, so cold it burned my skin. And then it whispered one last thing. You've been outside for too long. Now it's my turn. And just like that, I felt myself lift off the ground. My vision blurred, and the last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was my own body, frozen, staring at the window, while the figure stepped outside, wearing my face. I woke up hours later, drenched in cold sweat, still inside my cabin. No storm, no footprints, no sign that anyone had ever been there. But when I looked out the window, I saw myself standing outside, staring in. And I knew, whatever had come for me, it wasn't done yet. I had been living alone for a little over a year now. My apartment was small, nothing fancy, but it was mine. And after a long day at work, that was enough. That night, it was snowing. Heavy flakes had been falling all evening, coating the streets outside in a thick, muffling blanket of white. My plan had been simple: order some takeout, binge a few episodes of a show, and crawl into bed early. But none of that happened. I was halfway through my third slice of cold pizza when I heard it. At first, I wasn't sure. Maybe just the wind scraping against the window frames. But then I heard it again. A faint tap, tap, tap on my living room window. I froze, mid-bite. My apartment was on the third floor. Nobody could reach the window from outside, not without a ladder. I stared at the glass, half expecting the snow to somehow distort a shadow, but it was just snow, or at least it looked like snow. "Hello?" I called out softly, my voice trembling in a way I didn't like. No answer. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe a branch had hit the window. Maybe it was just the wind. I turned back to my pizza, but then the sound came again. Tap, 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 this time coming from the back door. My heart started to pound. The back door was locked, deadbolts in place, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was out there, just beyond the glass. I swallowed hard and grabbed my phone. No service. My Wi-Fi was down too. Great. Just great. Alone. No way to call anyone. I walked slowly to the door, my bare feet silent on the cold floor, and pressed my ear to the wood. At first, silence. Then, a slow, deliberate scratching, like nails dragging across the metal frame. Okay. It's just someone messing with me, I muttered, more to myself than anything. It's probably a kid, some idiot. I tried to open the door, just to peek outside. Locked. Deadbolt still in place. I double-checked the chain lock. Everything secure. Then I heard it. Laughing. Soft, almost playful, right outside the door. The kind of laugh that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand on end. I backed away. My mind was racing. Who would be out there in this weather? And why? My apartment complex wasn't known for crime. Not really. But the laugh came again, this time from the window nearest my kitchen. I turned slowly, trying to see through the frosted glass. Something moved. A shadow. I blinked, and it was gone. My stomach twisted. I wanted to call the police, but there was no service. My only option was to wait it out. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I moved to the living room window, peeking through the blinds. The snow had piled high, obscuring most of the view, but then I saw it. A figure, crouched low, watching me. No features, just a dark silhouette against the snow. I stumbled backward. My breath was visible in the freezing air of my apartment, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the locks. I should have left, should have gone to a neighbor's apartment. But something stopped me. Fear, yes, but also curiosity. I don't know. Then the tapping started again, this time from the ceiling, above me. Light, deliberate taps like someone walking across the floor above. My building was old. There were no apartments above me. I ran to the bedroom, grabbed the baseball bat I kept under the bed, and crouched behind the door. The tapping moved slowly toward the bedroom door. It stopped. Silence. Then a whisper. My turn? The voice was mine. I froze. I didn't move. My bat trembled in my hands. Then the doorknob rattled. Slow, deliberate. Someone or something was trying the handle. I backed up against the wall, holding my bat tightly, unable to breathe. "Who's there?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. Silence. Then a soft tapping on the bedroom window. I inched toward it, heart hammering in my chest, and pulled the curtain slightly aside. Nothing. Just snow. But the reflection in the glass caught my attention. It was me, standing outside, looking in. I yelped and stumbled backward, my own reflection, or something wearing my face. It mimicked my movements perfectly, like a twisted shadow. I could see it pressing its hand against the glass, reaching toward me. I ran to the door, ignoring the locks this time. I had to get out. I had to leave. I yanked it open, and no one was there. Only snow swirling in the streetlights. Only silence. I grabbed my coat and rushed to the stairs, taking them two at a time. By the time I reached the lobby, my apartment keys were shaking in my hand, and I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Each stair I had descended, I could hear faint footsteps behind me, echoing mine. I bolted into the snowstorm outside. My breath came in ragged gasps, the cold biting through my clothes. I didn't look back. I ran to my car, unlocked it, and jumped inside, locking the doors. The snow was thick, making it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet. I turned the key in the ignition, heart racing, but the engine didn't start. I tried again. Nothing. My stomach dropped. Then I heard it, right outside the driver's side window. Heavy breathing, slow, deliberate. I didn't dare look. I locked the doors again. The breathing stopped. Silence. I exhaled slowly. Maybe I'd imagined it all. The snowstorm, the stress of being alone. Maybe I was just losing it. Then my phone vibrated. Service. A message appeared. "Why are you running?" I froze. I hadn't received any notifications earlier. I hadn't even turned on my phone. And yet there it was. Another vibration. Another message. "Come back." I'm outside. Panic hit me. I fumbled with the keys, trying to start the car again. The engine roared to life, but before I could pull out, I saw it. Standing in the snow. Not just a shadow this time. Not just a silhouette. Me. Exactly like me. Same coat, same hair, same terrified expression. It smiled. Not a friendly smile, a predatory one. I slammed the car into drive and floored it. Tires spun, snow spraying everywhere, and I skidded down the street, heart hammering, breath ragged. I dared not look in the rearview mirror. Not until I reached the first open road. When I finally did, the road was empty. No one behind me. I exhaled, trying to calm my shaking hands. I called a friend, anyone, and explained as best I could. They said they'd come over. I drove in circles until they arrived. When I finally made it back to my apartment hours later, the snow had stopped. The streets were eerily quiet. I went inside, locked every door and window, checked every corner. Nothing. Then I saw the message on my phone. One last one. "You can't hide forever. I'm already inside." I dropped the phone. My apartment was still. Too still. But from the bedroom, I could hear it. A soft, slow tapping. And then a whisper. My turn? I never sleep anymore. Every shadow, every creak of the floor, every tap at the window makes me flinch. I don't know what it wants. I only know one thing. The person outside, or inside, is no longer just watching. They're waiting. And I'm next. More unexplained stories coming soon?